my name is Mason. Welcome back to Mason's Critters. I'm making a quick video today about bearded dragons and parasites. This is my foster dragon, Sweet Potato. He's been in foster with me for almost a year, and I just wanted him to join us today. You may also see my leopard gecko Bart crawling around behind me. I don't know if you can see him back there. Big yellow guy. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about bearded dragons and parasites. There's a lot of misunderstandings around this topic. You know, a lot of people jump to, well, parasites are bad. But that's just not true, at least not in every case. So we're going to go over what parasites bearded dragons normally have, how they get these parasites, what to do if you believe your dragon has parasite overload, what causes parasite overload, and parasites to be aware of that are more dangerous and ones you want to avoid. This goes for both internal and external parasites, and we're going to talk about also, you know, when you're at the vet, what to ask about when you have a fecal exam performed. It's recommended to have fecal exams performed twice a year, ideally, or at least once a year, right around late summer, early fall. That way you can make sure that your bearded dragon is healthy and does not have to deal with parasites when they might be going into brumation. I also want to acknowledge that a lot of what I'm about to say, I learned from BeardieVet, Dr. Jonathan Howard. He's the #1 bearded dragon expert and vet in the world. He was interviewed by a friend of mine, Liam Sinclair, over at Reptiles and Research. I highly recommend you check out that channel if you like this one. And what I learned from him was invaluable. It really helps with keeping. So let's just get right into it. So bearded dragons, specifically Pogonia viniceps, the central bearded dragon, are supposed to have low loads of pinworms and coccidia. Pinworms are not, the ones they have are not like the ones we can get. They're supposed to have pinworms and coccidia to aid with digestion, especially when it comes to foliage. So basically when the worms and the coccidia are moving around in the gut, they are coming out of the intestinal lining. This causes the gut to contract, and that aids with digestion. When the female bearded dragons in the wild or in captivity, when they are gravid, being gravid and breeding season as a whole is stressful, and that causes an increase in parasite load that they have, because stress lowers the immune system, it suppresses them. So they have a little bit of a higher load. When the female lays the eggs, those eggs are coated in the parasites, and then once the babies hatch out of the egg, they are immediately exposed to coccidia and pinworms. And then that's just how they all contract them, and that's a natural part of their life, and they need those parasites. That's the big thing. A lot of folks, when they go to the vet, or, you know, even sometimes the vet will say, like, we need to get rid of the parasites. No, you don't. You need, or they need, low levels of coccidia and pinworms. Otherwise, they're going to have digestive distress. They're going to have a hard time getting that roughage through them, and they're not really going to want to eat. Also, treatment deworming is stressful for them. It's hard on their bodies. It's hard on their gut. Many vets, unfortunately, do not recommend or they don't mention that a bearded dragon needs extra hydration and probiotic while going through a treatment like this, similar with like antibiotics as well. Otherwise, their gut biome is going to become unbalanced. Of course, in situations where a bearded dragon is experiencing clinical symptoms, so a combination of losing weight, not wanting to eat, very, very runny stool or diarrhea, blood in the stool, these are all more clinical symptoms and a much bigger deal than just, well, the bearded dragon isn't really eating, for example. I also want to talk about how parasite overload is a symptom. It is a secondary problem. There is a main problem that causes this, and that is stress. immunosuppression, basically. If the dragon, for example, has an immune disorder, they might deal with parasite overload more often. If they're not receiving correct husbandry, if the temperatures are off, if you're using the wrong kind of heating, if the UVB isn't correct, or if like the bulb hasn't been changed out like it should be, if the enclosure is too small, if the wrong kind of substrate is being used, or if there's no loose substrate for them to burrow in, if the dragon is gravid in captivity and you're not breeding, it's just a result of overfeeding and causing the dragon to produce eggs. Again, that's a husbandry mistake. Diet is really important for their health. If they're receiving a diet too high in fruits and sugars, that causes the fungal cultures in the gut to increase, and that can cause the parasites to run wild, and then they get parasite overload. So again, if the dragon is experiencing a parasite overload, there is a problem that is causing that. It's not something that just pops up out of nowhere. It's really important to have regular fecal exams so you can check and make sure everything is as it should be. It's good preventative care. You can make sure you can catch it before it gets bad, before the dragon starts to lose weight and muscle mass and doesn't want to eat and things like that. Husbandry is crucial. If your husbandry is incorrect, your dragon is going to have problems. And parasite overload is just one of those problems that can happen. So it's really important. Avoid fruit. Make sure your temperatures are correct and you're using the right kind of heating. This is a heliothermic reptile. They associate bright light with the sun and with heat and, basking under UVB and things like that. If you're using something that is lightless, like a deep heat projector or ceramic heat emitter with no basking light, that is going to cause problems in the long run. It's going to cause stress on the animal. They don't understand why there's no sun, because just a UVB light, while to us it might look fairly bright, it's not to them. They're used to being in a very sunny, bright environment, bearded dragons specifically. So if they're kept in an enclosure that only has a UVB light, then it's like living in a cave to them. That's gonna cause a lot of stress. Same if it's only a basking light and UVB. There's new research showing that LED lighting is really, really important for heliothermic reptiles and just reptiles in general. Basically, husbandry is incredibly important. You need to make sure that bearded dragon is in a properly sized enclosure. 4 by 2 by 2 feet is the bare minimum for bearded dragons. A 40-gallon tank isn't going to cut it in the long run. 75-gallon tank, no. Even a 120-gallon tank, that's the thing. You don't want to think in terms of gallons. 120 gallons can come in several different dimensions. You need something that's 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 2 feet tall minimum. And that's only in the States. Other countries, there are other recommended minimums. Ideally, a bearded dragon would need something closer to 5 by 3 by 3 feet or 6 by 3 by 3 feet. They're going to use all the space you give them, so don't confine them to just a small little box. Otherwise, they're not going to get the exercise they need. They're not going to be able to have a safe heat gradient or the distance between their heating and UVB. It's going to cause stress, and then that can cause parasite overload. Types of parasites that are problematic, there are plenty. This includes crypto. That's a really, really serious one. Crypto manifests in many different ways in many different species. In snakes, for example, it can cause a lot of swelling in the belly area. But in lizards, say like leopard geckos, like Bart over here, it can cause stick tail, where their tail and their body, they lose weight rapidly and they get that little stick thin tail basically. In bearded dragons, crypto can cause things like rapid weight loss, severe diarrhea with blood in it, vomiting if it's more present in the stomach, if it's more present in the intestines. It can cause like this hard bulge in their belly area. Sudden death is also one, especially if the bearded dragon's quite young. Crypto is extremely hard on their bodies and it's extremely contagious. Chain pet store dragons and other animals are more likely to have crypto because they're all in there together. They're all stepping in each other's waste. It's a dirty environment. It's a stressful environment. So if one of those dragons brings in crypto from the mill or wherever it came from, then all of those dragons can get exposed and they're going to get very sick, because crypto can also be dormant in the body for an extended period of time before any kind of symptom starts to rear its head. That's again why regular fecal exams are extremely important, and there are false negatives in some cases because of the life cycle of crypto and some other types of parasite. So that's why, if it's a negative but you're seeing unusual symptoms, have another one done, just in case. It's better to be safe than sorry. Another parasite that you want to watch out for, this is an external parasite, mites, often referred to as snake mites because it's more common in snakes, but these mites don't discriminate. They are going to go after whatever reptile is around, and they, again, are extremely contagious, and they can spread like wildfire through your collection. They typically manifest, there's like these little black dots on the reptile, especially in the eye and face region. A reptile that is experiencing the severe irritation of reptile mites might be soaking a lot to try and drown the mites. They might be rubbing against stuff, itching and uncomfortable. They might get extremely lethargic, especially if there's a lot of mites. You're going to become anemic. And, when you look at the animal, you'll be able to visibly see these small black dots scurrying all over them under the scale. So these dots are going to appear where there weren't any before. So, regular physical exams of your animal to make sure, like, how you looking, how's it going, is there anything weird I need to look out for? It's a really, really important part of keeping. It's good to do weekly, especially if you do have a larger collection, or if this is a new animal that's in quarantine. Quarantine is really, really important. When you have a new animal that's coming home, keep it away from your other animals for at least 30 to 90 days, especially if you're if you're coming back from like a reptile expo, or maybe a pet store that is a little sketchy. You want to make sure that you're not bringing something home that can devastate your reptile family. So what does treatment typically look like for a parasite overload? Well, if the symptoms are mild, it's going to be best to first try to correct husbandry mistakes. That way the animal will experience less stress, the immune system will build itself back up, and it might be able to self-correct. Because again, treatment with medications is hard on their body. It's going to cause more stress. It's going to be best if you can try and fix what's causing it first. Maybe you're getting in a rescue that's experienced a high amount of stress before coming into your care, and they're already showing clinical signs. Or maybe they're showing clinical signs already and you need to do treatment. In that case, what vets will typically do is give you dewormer, and it's an oral medication. It's really, really important to be extremely careful when administering anything orally. You do not want to get anything in their glottis, which is like a breathing tube near the front of the mouth. You want it to go down the throat. If they aspirate any kind of medication through the glottis, that's an emergency situation. You need to go to an emergency vet. Otherwise, they very well could end up suffering a fatal injury from that, or fatal illness like pneumonia. You'll want to provide a probiotic. Not many vets mention this. It's something you might need to do on your own. Good probiotics that are available include Nutribok, which is one specifically for reptiles and amphibians. And there's also Benebok Plus. Benebok used to have a reptile specific one. Now they just have one that has like small mammals and other animals on it. It's the same thing. It's just different packaging, same probiotic. So don't worry if there's not a reptile on the package. It is perfectly safe and fine to use for reptiles and amphibians. What you'll typically want to do is put that on all food. If like salad especially, it's going to help them digest that salad. If the dragon isn't eating, then you'll want to, again, just keep offering food. Eventually the medication will help with the parasite problem, and they will start eating again. but ideally we're not getting to that point already where the animal is suffering from severe clinical signs and doesn't want to eat anymore. Something that can really help the immune system as well that a lot of people are not aware of is making sure your nighttime temperatures aren't too hot. In the wild, it's not hot 24/7 where they're experiencing heat all the time. You know, a lot of people say, well, it needs to be at least 70 degrees at night or they're going to get too cold and get sick. That's not the case. In fact, it actually very much helps their immune system to cool off at night. They can safely get down to 55 degrees at nighttime, bearded dragons. Of course, maybe you don't want to get down that low, but what you can do is, you know, get them down to like 60 to 68, and that's going to help their immune system. If they're hot all the time and their body is, you know, dealing with higher metabolism, they might be uncomfortable. A lot of times night heat isn't needed unless it is quite cold where you are, right, buddy? Let them cool off at night. You don't need a ceramic heat emitter, a deep heat projector, if it's warmer than 55 degrees at night in your home, which luckily most homes are warmer than 55 degrees at night. So let your reptile cool off. It helps a lot. And then diet as well. Whoops, squiggly wiggly guy. Diet is extremely important. I already touched a little bit on sugars and how they can negatively affect a bearded dragon. This includes fruits. Of course, you should not feed a bearded dragon fruit. A lot of people say it's fine as a treat. They love it. Well, of course they like it. It's sugar. And of course we want to share something tasty with our animals. Humans love sugar. Don't you even try it. He's trying to jump up on there. Fruit. Avoid fruit. You know, it's not worth it. We as humans, we love sugar. We want to share these tasty sugary treats with our animals. Just don't do it. It doesn't do any good for them. It's kind of like giving a lactose intolerant kid ice cream. Yeah, they're a kid. They're going to love ice cream, but it hurts them. And you don't want to hurt them, of course. So choose a different treat. Bearded dragons in the wild, they eat a lot of flowers. They love flowers, delicious to them. You can give them lots of different colorful flowers like dandelions. You can give them rose petals or sunflower petals. You can give them nasturtium flowers, squash blossoms. There are tons and tons of different flowers that you can give them, which make excellent treats. You also want to try to avoid sugary vegetables. We've genetically modified our vegetables to have very high amounts of sugar. Bell peppers, squashes, even like zucchinis and stuff like that. What might not be super high in sugar to us is to them, when in the wild, they're not eating really any sugar at all. So avoid sugars, and that way you can avoid fermentation in their gut because they're not really meant to be able to break down that amount of sugar. And then the fungal cultures in their gut will be normal once you avoid those sugars, and they will be healthier for it and not have to deal with a parasite bloom in the gut from all the sugars and the fungals and everything like that. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to touch on with bearded dragons and parasites. Just a brief summary. They are supposed to have low loads of coccidia and pinworms. They get these from the day they hatch out of their egg from their mother. Stress causes parasite overload. Stress can be from incorrect husbandry, incorrect diet. It can be from an illness that they have. It can be from an immune system disorder they have. There's a variety of different things, but parasite overload is a secondary illness. It is not something that is just going to spontaneously happen. There are parasites that are, ones that you want to avoid, things like mites, hookworm, crypto, flagellates, and things like that. Don't want your dragon to have those. So not all parasites are good. Have regular fecal exams performed. Ideally, you should be bringing your bearded dragon to the vet for a wellness exam once a year, and you should do a fecal exam about twice a year. If you don't have an exotic vet near you, I get it. It's good to have an exotic vet if you have an exotic pet, so you should take that into account before you get an exotic pet. But there are ways to be able to do fecal exams. VetDNA.com, for example, you can send a fecal sample away and you can have testing performed on that. You can at least see what's going on with your bearded dragon and making sure that their loads are low, normal. If they have moderate loads, try fixing a husbandry mistake first before you go through a stressful and taxing deworming process. If the numbers are very high, then you'll probably need to do some deworming, and you'll want to use a probiotic and fix whatever husbandry mistakes have resulted in those parasites from getting so out of control. That is pretty much everything I have on this topic. I hope your bearded dragons and other reptiles stay well. Please feel free to like, subscribe, click the bell if you want to be notified next time I post a video. I'll be posting more videos like these. I hope to bring about more videos on these kind of lesser known topics, and that way you can take better care of your animals. My name is Mason. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and happy keeping.